Hey everyone, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is July 20th, 2021, and it has been an insanely busy month. A lot of traveling, a lot of working, a lot of programming, a lot of papers. And I just wanted to give you guys a brief update. So Cardano 360's episode is coming out on the 29th. I believe that's a Thursday, not this week, but the following week. And we'll be able to give you guys a big Alonzo update. Everything is looking pretty good, looking like it's on schedule. The application backend integration is on schedule. The wallet backend integration is on schedule. We have a working Alonzo node, as many of you know. We've survived the blue era. That was fun. And now we are in the white era. And right now we're mass onboarding people and pushing out the new node version 1.2.8. That's coming soon. Some CLI updates as well. And we're going from 3 exercises to run to about 7 exercises to run. And the set of people is going to scale from dozens to hundreds very soon on the network. We've also begun transitioning some of the development partners to become basically integration test partners. In particular, MetaLamp is really going to beat the hell out of Alonzo White. We look forward to a lot of their test vectors and scenarios. 2 papers in particular I want to call out. One is Dejed, and I mentioned that in a prior video, and then the other is Mithril. In both cases, we take these papers very seriously, and I'd like to begin prototyping implementation immediately for them. So for Dejed, we already have a lot of knowledge we've gained from the Ergo script implementation of minimal Dejed, and we're right now sourcing a good team to continue that work effort and experiment, play with the design. Given that we actually have working code and a formal model for it, as well as pretty well thought out algorithms, it should be a rather straightforward implementation, but it's an incredibly good stress test of Plutus. Today also marks a milestone. Moritz was able to get the entire application backend compiled and running in JavaScript. And that's a big effort, compiled to 98 megabytes in running in JavaScript. So a lot of optimization, a lot of cleaning, a lot of stuff to do. And of course, we're going to have to run a large test suite. The point of the PAB in the browser is to enable Plutus applications in the browser. So that's a big milestone to see that team do it. And in the coming weeks and months, we'll continue refining that in anticipation of the launch of Goguen. So Dejed will get where it needs to go. PAB in browser will get where it needs to go. And the other is Mithril is the great paper. And we've already reached out to several vendors. One is a US company and the other is in Ukraine to discuss what an implementation would look like in the time horizon of an implementation. There are really 2 value propositions that you immediately get with Mithril. One is that it's going to enable full security, really high security like clients, where it doesn't matter where you get your source from. You have enough information locally to be able to know that you're not being lied to. So that's really the holy grail of like clients. And 2, fast bootstrapping, where we can actually create certificates for each epoch, and it may open up the ability to do parallel validation of the epochs. So this is something that can be implemented rather straightforward, but it does require a new crypto primitive, and we're right now assessing the complexity of that and how quickly it can be done. But it's something that's high priority for me. I think getting Cardano into the browser and making sure that that's a great experience, and getting Cardano on the cell phone and the dApp ecosystem on the cell phone is a high priority. And as we march towards Goguen, it's very important that we also have a good strategy to make sure that that light client experience gets where it needs to go. We have a really big light client team that we've been spinning up. We keep adding to it. We have a great UI UX team. This is the first product we've ever done with UI UX first, as opposed to technology first. So it's a little bit of a culture shock and experiment, but I think that's the way to go, especially for a consumer-oriented product. We'll have more to say about that at a later date, but that team is really passionate and enthusiastic, and they're moving along. A lot of progress with Plutus Pioneers. We're over several thousand people now in the total program, and a lot of test code being written. And I can't wait to see some of the infrastructure like QVIC's property-based testing framework and other such things work their way to Cardano. They've been contracted to do that. Alpha Frontier is also writing specifications very quickly. So we're going to soon be able to do apples to apples comparisons of applications on Ethereum versus Cardano. But preliminary testing is looking very promising. all things said, the ocean is blue, no storms. We're moving forward at a pretty systematic pace. We're writing software faster and more efficiently than we've ever written before. And you can see that in the GitHub repos. It's kind of funny. Everybody says commits don't count. They mean nothing, but they never actually bother to look at the GitHub commits, and they never actually bother to look at how we close issues and move forward from a product management perspective. And if they bothered to do that, they'd see enormous progress is being made week by week. And the constellation of partners, the improvement of documentation, and the methodology is really coming together. So it's going to be a good summer, and we're going to have a very strong launch, I think. And, there's going to be a few things that need polishing and refinement. But all things considered, the ecosystem is moving along well. As many of you know, there's over 100 integration partners. So when we do a hard fork event, over 100 people have to upgrade companies, their infrastructure, like wallets, like exchanges, and so forth. And that's a lot of work. So it's very important to do a stage rollout. That's why we're doing the Alonzo colors. And we'll be talking more about that stage rollout next week, Thursday, to kind of give you guys a sense of timelines and horizons and so forth. But we feel very confident with the progress we've made so far. And all things considered, we don't have any major bottlenecks or bugs that have come up. But, software is software, so stuff could come up. But at this juncture, I feel pretty confident, given that we have a working Alonzo node running Plutus code against it. It's just a matter of now pulling the components together. And the two biggest are the wallet backend and the application backend. They do different things. The backend is necessary for Daedalus integration and for the hard fork. And the application backend is necessary for the full rich development experience. It's actually possible without it to deploy smart contracts on Cardano, but your experience will be similar to the experience of the Nintendo developers way back in the day when they were writing Fantasy Island or whatever, these games that came out in the cartridges. Not exactly the most fun in the world. A little bit better, but you guys get the idea. It's good to have tooling, and that's exactly what that team is doing. And there's a whole constellation of software that needs to be written around it, tested, and so forth. But the deployment of that does not require a soft or hard fork. So it can be done in iterative stages, and each milestone produces more functionality and a better development experience. So what will likely occur is that the hard fork combinator event will occur after the node is fully burnt in. We have a high degree of assurance around that design, and we make sure everything's looking good, everything green, and the wallet backend and Daedalus are integrated. This will give the integration partners, the 100 plus of them, time to upgrade without high stress on the network from smart contracts. People, the minute that you fork, will be able to run any smart contract they've written as long as they actually can compile and get it working on the network. It's just the development experience won't necessarily be there for regular developers to come in. So it's kind of nice to have that, because you'll have a situation where the load is low and we can run a lot of test scenarios and so forth. And PAB can be implemented gradually. It looks like the current integration of PAB for the node will be finished at the end of July. That's our current deadline. And I haven't seen anything different today, but things change week by week. And then the next step for the PAB is PAB against the wallet backend. The wallet backend integration looks like it's going to finish at the end of July as well at our current velocity from the data I've seen from our daily reports. So after those events are there, decent product. And then it'll probably take an additional 4 to 6 weeks to finish the PAB integration with the wallet backend. And that's where you have an end-to-end system for full smart contract development. So you have a beautiful development experience at that point. So if you do the math, it looks like September is the month for that. But that doesn't actually hold back, as I said, the hard fork event. So optimistically, I think August still looks pretty good. Pessimistically, September looks pretty good. But the velocity hasn't changed, and we haven't encumbered any significant delays. There were some in the beginning integration delays. Originally, we thought it'd take about 4 weeks to do the wallet backend integration with Node. But as with all things, we discovered that there are some rough edges, and a lot of additional work had to be done. So that 4 weeks got upgraded to 8 weeks. So instead of the early July, end of July, And then there were a few issues with DB Sync and a few issues with surrounding infrastructure, but that's been resolved. And those pieces are turning on and testing well and so forth. We have a lot of experience with this infrastructure and software now, and the software code quality is quite good. And there's fairly low technical debt in most places. And we have a pretty good idea of how long it takes to do something. So all things considered, I'm pretty happy with it. Of course, I would have liked, all of this done in March, or January or whatever. But it is what it is. This is the nature of software, and August, September is looking pretty solid. Something could come up, like for example, we could have several of the Plutus core team on a plane, and it could crash, and they get lost in the Amazon or something, or an unforeseen catastrophic design flaw. But it's very unlikely for these types of things. And as I said, Thursday next week, we'll have the 360 episode, and that episode will kind of go through all of this with visuals and talk about basically milestones and these things. But you'll get the same view that I get, and the view is quite positive. What is much more meaningful to me is the development of a developer ecosystem, and Catalyst is swimming along fabulously. We have a pretty good ecosystem map. There's a lot of people who are committed or already designing and building dApps. And to see them roll over into Alonzo White, Alonzo Purple, and eventually into the mainnet is going to be a really fun thing, but it's going to keep us very busy. And this is why we brought on 7 development partners. So once they understood Plutus well enough to build applications, they also now understand Plutus well enough to act in an advisory role. So they could do things like pull request review, co-architecture, co-sourcing, or potentially even full dApp development. So probably another month or two, those partners will be completely where they need to be. And then they're available to the entire ecosystem, in addition to IO Global and Emergo and DC Spark and other companies in the ecosystem. So if you are a developer and you wish to program but need a little help, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're a business and you wish to migrate, there's a really beautiful ecosystem now of players that intimately understand the tools, the technology, and how to write Plutus applications, and they can work their way in. So we'll have a lot more to say about that in the coming weeks and months. But I wanted to give you guys an update today because I'm going to be heading off to Satoshi Roundtable here in a little bit. I attend that event now every year. Bruce Fenton puts it on, and it's a great summit. It's like the Bilderberg group of the crypto space. So it's a great summit to meet all the other crypto leaders and talk to them about who's who and what's going on, and what's going to be hot for the next year, and where's money being invested and so forth. And hopefully we can represent IO Global and Cardano quite well. We're also quite happy to see a lot of progress on the Cardano Foundation side. Recently, Fred Gregard did a video on the strategy of the Cardano Foundation, and there's a lot of great progress on the management side, the council side, and hopefully they're going to be able to match a very aggressive budget with their strategy and publicly announce that soon. And we're starting to definitely see more productivity, progress, and effort kicking up out of that. And also, it's nice to see a derivative ecosystem forming. DC Spark, for example, is comprised of the former CTO and director of engineering of Emergo, Nico and Sebastian. Many of you in the community know them well, and they're committed to building great products and services in the Cardano ecosystem. And we're seeing a lot of that occur, where people who used to belong to some of the parent codes are now growing up and getting their own ships, getting their own commands, and getting a little bit more agile. They're kind of like the speedboats versus the cruise ships, and ecosystems need that. Catalyst is also speeding up. Well over 50 things were funded, as I announced when I read off the winners, and we're going right into Fund 5, and we're just going to keep chipping away at it, keep the velocity going, and hopefully we can get to 100, and then 200, and then 300, and the numbers will keep growing as well. And a lot of support infrastructure is being installed. So look for the 360 episode at the end of the month. And of course, David Orr's mini 360. If you don't have the patience to sit through for a few hours, that's okay. Time's finite. And if you're a developer, do let us know. There's a lot of hooks in. Go to cardano.org and we'll get you where you need to go. And Alonzo White is churning away. Things are looking very positive in that respect. And this is just a brief update. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.